episode of Winged Nation. I am Ashley Stremme, and joining me today is my gal pal, Erin Crocker Evernham. Erin, thanks for joining me today here on Winged Nation.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm feeling like a regular on the show now. I kind of like it.
Well, you're feeling, it's better when we're together. When the girls get together, it's a good time. No, we miss Steve, obviously. Yes, we miss Steve, obviously, but he's on special assignment with his real job. I hate it when those get in the way. But Erin, we've chatted with you and your daughter, Kate, and her love of horsepower, how it's a little bit different than what you and Ray are used to. But you guys were at the steeplechase this past week. How fun was that?
It was really neat. Had never heard of it. So here in Charlotte, they do this Queen's Cup steeplechase. They do it once a year, and they haven't had it in a few years because of COVID. But it's kind of a nice mix of our horsepower worlds. You know, Kate likes real horses. We like race cars, so it's racing and horses. So it kind of fit for everyone. Although you kind of have to get dressed up and wear fancy hats, so it's a little bit like, you know, not like going to the dirt track. But no, it was really neat, and we went with Novant Health, which is a hospital system, healthcare system around here. They had invited us. And they were a sponsor of one of the races, so we got to go down to the finish line and see the horses and touch them, meet the jockeys. It was honestly a very fun experience. However, our daughter was picking our winners because we were like making small bets with our people at our table. And of the 5 races, she had we didn't win one race, and we lost 3 riders. When what else happened? We saw one fall right in front of us, but it was a really neat event. But if you're going to a horse race or making any bets, do not let Kate pick for you.
I love it. So is the Kentucky Derby on tap for you guys this year then?
Well, not this year, but that's a bucket list item. That's an event I'd like to go to just to say I've been. Obviously it's one of the most watched sporting events in the United States, and now that we know a lot about horses, I'm even more interested.
I love it. Well, I want to help pick your hat when it comes
My
to
fascinator.
I love it. Well, I also have to brag on you because this week, while I had little man, I get to watch a lot of TV now. It seems like that's what I do when I have little man, when he's trying to nap or feed or whatever it may be. And I was watching NBC, and they were doing this cool segment on women in motorsports. And they were talking about several of the different tire changers that go over the wall for NASCAR that are females now, several of the engineers that work for the teams and whatnot. And it was so cool because in that clip was the famed red number 16 that I remember so well as a kid growing up. And of course, they talked about you and your history and your World of Outlaw win. And I just thought it was cool that you were the only female on dirt that they spoke about.
Oh, that's really neat. I haven't seen this segment, but I'll have to be on the lookout for it. You know, it's been neat kind of being a retired driver, obviously still involved with Wing Nation and some motorsports, but I'm really trying to help Lynn St. James and Beth Peretta. They're starting this thing called Women in Motorsports North America, and it's basically, we started it as a website, and it can be like a mentorship. You can go on and find different women in the industry to look up to ask questions. But I've really enjoyed that part of it. When I was racing, I focused so much on not wanting to be known as the female. I just wanted to be a race car driver. But now that my career as a driver is over, it's kind of neat to be looked at for my accomplishments as a woman and try to help other women come along.
So cool. But speaking of accomplishments, let's dig right into this, Erin. Obviously, we got to get into our lap and turn number 1. He is now officially tied with your hero, the King. Brian Brown gets his 57th Knoxville Raceway win, which ties him with Steve Kinser.
Which is incredible that Steve Kinser has that many wins, even though he was basically an outlaw for most of his life. But what an accomplishment for Brian Brown. I mean, talk about someone who has figured out Knoxville Raceway. And I think ever since he's gotten Daniel Lasowski involved, it's stepped up his program that much more. Like, I feel like he's going to just be a contender like he always is at Knoxville all year long.
So then we'll roll into turn 2. It is a long time coming since joining the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series full-time at the start of this season. Spencer Bayston, who we actually spoke to a couple weeks ago, he's been competitive. He's been there. And now we're finally going to get to chat with him today as he's our guest again because he picked up his first World of Outlaw win this season just this past weekend at Bristol. And he held off some guy named Kyle Larson who put on an epic show this weekend in the late models as well. Pretty cool. We're going to chat with Spencer here in just a few minutes, Erin.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation. I want to hear his thoughts about that slider that Kyle pulled on him, that those the last few laps when there was like no space between the two of them and they're running about 140 miles an hour. I can't wait to hear his view on that moment.
It's so true. And him sneaking on the front stretch there and then rolling into turn one and they bang tires. It was incredible.
Yeah.
But so we'll chat with Spencer just here right after the break on the Hercules Tire Hotline. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned right here on Wing Nation. All right, welcome back to Wing Nation. Joining us on the Hercules Tire Hotline is none other than Spencer Bayston. Spencer, we spoke to you a few weeks ago, got caught up on your thoughts and everything that was going into this season. Now you finally have a win under your belt as a World of Outlaw at Bristol, nonetheless. What does this mean to you?
Honestly, it's I've spent the last 24 hours just trying to kind of put it into perspective of what actually happened, and I woke up on Sunday morning and watched it all over again just to make sure it did in fact happen. Just a cool night overall. Bristol Motor Speedway, a track that I've watched ever since I was a little kid. Watching the NASCAR races and always wanting to go. And then to in turn then actually racing there is just so cool to think about, and then obviously getting a win makes it even more special. So um, I'm just really proud of everyone that's involved with our program and all we've really worked for. This year we've led a lot of laps. We've had good chances and opportunities to win races, and they just haven't really fallen our way. So as soon as I drew the one pill in the dash straw on Saturday night, I was like, man, pressure's on now. You can't let this one get away. So really just happy and a big sigh of relief that we got it done.
Spencer, talk about those last few laps. Kyle Larson got a big run on you, slider. You knew he was there, and you had the choice to keep your foot in it and hope he gave you a lane or hope it worked out. Talk about those moments. I mean, that's difficult at any racetrack, but you're running Bristol of all places, high speed, the fastest track that you guys go to all year, and you just make that split second decision that I'm going for it.
Yeah, I think any racer probably can contest. Once it's in a situation like that, green white checkered, you're as bad as it probably is. You're not really taking into effect any of the risk factor. You're doing whatever in order to win the race. And when he slid me, I knew he was probably going to slide me or whoever it was at the time. I thought it was Logan. Obviously, it was Kyle. Got a big run into turn one, slid me, and that wasn't too bad. But then I was surprised on how big of a run he got into three as well. He made a lot of ground on that entry to three, and was a good bit in front of me. And I felt like if I broke my momentum to turn underneath him, then he would take my nose away or take my line away into turn one, and that would be the race. So I just hunkered down, committed. Felt like he left me just a big enough lane to squeeze by, and I was able to take his line away into one and secured it. But yeah, you don't. I don't think we really. I mean, Aaron, I'm sure you probably understand. You don't really take into consideration the risk factor, what could have happened. You're only worried about what can potentially happen, and that's winning a race. So that's what we did, and we got it done.
It's so awesome just to hear you talk about that. And I know when we had you on a few weeks ago, we were maybe kind of hard on Barry and just how driven and how determined he is and how serious he can be when it comes to racing and gathering those wins. Spencer, what was he like in Victory Lane? What did it mean for him to win at Bristol with you this past weekend?
Oh, we were getting for sure. That when I first went and got fitted at the shop in Carlisle at Barry's house, you walk into this big massive shop and he's got machinery everywhere and it's so organized and clean and professional. And then you turn to the right to where his office is, and there are trophies everywhere from all different tracks all across the country, big events, small events, you name it. But he didn't have a Bristol sword. So be able to get him that sword is really really cool. I saw the video. I think that maybe Ross Weiss caught or the Outlaws caught of those last couple laps of them on top of the trailer and celebrating and kind of making his way to victory lane with a big smile on his face and a little extra pimp in his step. So that was really really cool, and just to put that smile on his face and Chad Clemens' face, our owner, is what makes it truly special and what means the most.
Spencer, you mentioned in Victory Lane something along the lines of you felt more comfortable in this car this season than you ever have in your career before. What is that like as a driver? It's your first year with the World of Outlaws, but you've driven sprint cars for years now. The confidence that you get when you now walk into a racetrack. Yeah, this was the first win on the season, but you've been fast everywhere you go. But the car you just know is going to be comfortable. Like how much confidence does that give you every night, and how great is that to feel that the car is going to be good no matter where you are.
Oh, probably the best feeling ever, just because I think any driver, that can roll onto the racetrack at all times and know that they can push the limit, they can do what it takes to be fast and successful. And that's what you need. You need a good car. So it's a dream come true to be able to be in this situation and have that type of feel and confidence when we go into a racetrack, and in turn be able to make the moves we did on those last couple laps, because I was fully, confident and believed in what my car was capable of and what I could and could not do at such a high speed place like that at Bristol. So it's a great feeling. It's a feeling I've been searching for, and really trying to get to my whole career. We had a little bit of that last year in the 11 car. Started to get a kind of a mojo and a good feel down. My early years with Swindells, we ran a decent amount of races, but I was so green at that point. So now it's like we put it all together, and I feel like I'm driving at probably the highest level of my career right now, and I think it's showing. So just really happy that everyone that gets to be part of it: Signing Day Sports, CRC Transportation, Nice Crete and Landis, CNS Lawn and Landscape. We have so many great partners that kind of all jump in together and help us with this to make it all possible. And I just got to say a big thank you to them.
You talk about having that confidence, and especially the speed at Bristol, and just the high banks at Bristol. That place when you walk in is so electrifying, but it's also intimidating, I think, to an extent. And you talk about that sword. I don't know if you can see ours up here in the corner here. We got our Bristol sword just chilling up there. It's such a cool trophy as well. But you talk about your childhood growing up, watching Bristol, knowing you want to go there, being able to do it on dirt in a sprint car. Did you ever fathom that could potentially happen, and B, to walk away with one of those incredible swords?
Well, I wasn't. I would have been like 1 or 2 years old when they ran there in 2000, 2001. Sorry. Um, no, but like I be a possibility to ever actually race at Bristol. Early part of my career, I wanted to make it to NASCAR and was kind of trying to put myself in that position to get to that point. My dad and I always said we want to go to Bristol and watch the night race. It's such a cool event. Such a close atmosphere and loud, and just it's all right there in front of you. So it's just a really cool place. So when the opportunity came last year that dirt was going on Bristol, and the Outlaws were going to have a weekend there, I was racing with Bernie at the time, and we said, heck yeah, let's do it. Let's might as well take this opportunity to go run such a cool place. So we did. I didn't think it would happen again, honestly. I thought it was kind of a one and done, and here we are again this year. It was on our schedule, and then as speed built and my comfort built, and be able to look back on the last year's race there when Paul ran fifth and was in contention all weekend, um, really had me excited to get back and give it our best shot. After the first night, I felt really not too bad with our car. It's just we didn't really have a ton of track position, so didn't really have any shot there, but the night really started well Saturday, and we were able to kind of just carry on and do our job. And I didn't screw it up, thankfully, and we brought it home.
Spencer, this is your third World of Outlaws win, but this one has to be the biggest and probably the most significant. But how does it feel different being a full-time outlaw, getting that race win versus the previous wins? I mean, every win is special, I know that for sure, but this one, full-time team, working with Barry Jackson and at Bristol, it's got to be extra special.
Extra special for sure. I've talked about it in other interviews before. The difference, in years past, when you come and run an outlaw race, you just go in and you try your best. And, some nights are good, some nights are bad. Most of them are bad. And kind of, you kind of just give it your all. And if it doesn't work out, well, it's okay. You go back and you run your all-star races or whatever you're doing at the time. Now it's like you don't ever get to breathe. You are there every single night, and you every night counts. You can't waste any nights. You can't just shake one off and say, hey, it's all right. It doesn't really affect our main goal here. Now this is the main goal, is to compete at a high level with the Word of Outlaws. We got a little behind early in Florida with points, but we're making our way back. We had a big jump this weekend up to 6 in points, and you just kind of keep clicking away at it. But winning an outlaw race as a touring outlaw is definitely a different sensation, a different feeling, and it just feels really, really good because we've been fast, we've led laps, and we've been in contention, but we haven't really gotten over that hump. This gets us over that hump. It gives us a little extra pep in our step and a little bit of extra excitement as we head into the next couple weeks.
Spencer, your goals for this season, obviously this win, it kind of probably catapults some things for you. Does it change ultimately where you guys started at the beginning? Or are you still on track with what you have goal wise, or does this really kind of change things and put things more into perspective?
I think going into the season, I knew what we were capable of. I knew, it's Barry freaking Jackson. I mean, he is like won all kinds of races, right? I mean, he's one of the best chiefs in the game right now. He just needed to get kind of his feel back and start building towards something with a full-time guy again. And so I knew going into the season that we could contend and try to win a handful of races. And if we didn't do that, I would be pretty disappointed. So we honestly got a little bit slow to start, even though I was hoping for in terms of number of podiums or wins. But kind of getting this first one out of the way, and then knowing our speed that we have, heading into some tracks that are, ran a lot throughout the schedule. Barry has a lot of wins there. I have a decent amount of laps at, helps that for sure. So I don't think our goal has changed, and I don't think our perspective has changed. I think now we get to kind of take a breath for a couple days, getting that first one out of the way, and now we can just go continue on with what we're trying to accomplish.
So true, Spencer. We appreciate you joining us. I'm excited to see you guys when you get back to the East Coast here, especially Barry knowing these Pennsylvania tracks like the back of his hand. So it's going to be awesome to see what you guys can do when you get back here. But we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. It's always a good time.
No problem. We'll be back. That was Spencer Bayston on the Hercules Tire Hotline. We'll be back with more Wing Nation in just a moment. We're back. It's Wing Nation, and a great appreciation for Spencer Bayston catching up with us again just a few weeks ago, and now today after winning his win at Bristol. Aaron, such a good kid.
He really is, and it's been really neat to see him grow over the last few years. We've had him on our show. We've talked to him at the track. He's got himself in a great position with Barry and that CJB car, and to see him pull off a big win, I think there's big things ahead for them in the future.
I'll be intrigued to see how many end up in the win column this year for that team, for sure. But let's jump into the last two turns of the lap around the sprint car world. It is turn 3. It is All-Star Schoenberg. Hunter Schoenberg wins at Lernerville with the All-Star Circuit of Champions. It is his second win, and his first came almost a year ago at State Line in New York. So he has something going on with the Northeast tracks here.
Yeah, absolutely. But to win at Lernerville, I think, is something special. State Line is a great racetrack. Actually, I have a future win there way back when. But Lernerville, you've got the local crowd. There's some tough competition. It was great to see him get another win.
And that's a tough track as well, but it's good to see him add another win to his column list as well. And rolling into turn 4, it's a different kind of wing. The NHRA was in Charlotte, and our producer, Hank, comes from the NHRA world, but also now loves wings. So check out a little clip that he shot, Hank, our producer, shot this week. With the NHRA in town, and how much those guys love sprint car racing.
I've always loved other aspects of race, but especially dirt racing. And, it goes back, the coolest thing, and I called the corporate headquarters at Napa. When I heard Brad Sweet, Casey Kane were going to be part of our team, I was giddy. And I love Brad Sweet, man, just a great guy. And the more you get to know him, the better he is. But growing up, Gary Selzy, obviously my teammate for a long time. The Valley there produces some of the Macedos. You go down the list of the drivers that come out of the Central Valley, and that was a lot of places that I would go on weekends with my dad to watch. So it's neat for me to watch the people I know from the Valley go out and race the World Outlaws and either win or do well. It really gives you kind of like, all right. So, getting to have a teammate like Brad Sweet, you couldn't ask for a better teammate to have.
Growing up, my dad, obviously, he was drag racing, and, I always loved going to the drag races, but I actually found out that my great-grandfather raced midgets and Indy cars back in the 30s and 40s, and me being the youngest child and always wanting to be different, I found a love for circle track racing. So started out in quarter midgets and moved my way up, raced out of Tony Stewart Racing for a while, but Chili Bowl is one of my favorite events of the year. I always love going. I'd like to go back again next year if everything works out, but it's a really cool show.
It starts with my dad. I mean, I grew up watching him race flat track motorcycles. I mean, he raced professionally before I was born, and raced locally in my hometown, Lawrenceburg, Indiana. There's a motorcycle track there, then of course the big sprint car track. So that's kind of where I grew up watching that stuff and just became a big fan. The older I got to know more and more guys in the sport. Brad Sweet is now a 3-time World of Outlaws champion. Lived with me for a couple years and just got to meet more and more people through him and Casey Kane, those guys. Just been a fan ever since.
I love wing sprint car racing. I got a taste of it when I raced in Australia in 2017. Got to run a couple shows, but that's one thing that I want to check off my bucket list is try and make a World of Outlaw show.
It was so cool that our producer Hank could catch up with those guys. We've had Ron Capps, Cruz Pedregon. It was cool to see Austin Prock and J.R. Todd on there as well, Aaron. The love for sprint car racing and dirt track racing in general has really kind of fallen into several mainstream forms of racing lately.
Yeah, and really all those guys have a history on the dirt. I watched Cruz Pendragon run the Prelude that Tony used to put on, and you see them at the Chili Bowl. And it's just neat to see that they're here in Charlotte. They're talking sprint cars. And I also want to give a quick shout out to John Force, 72 years old, winning his 155th career win. It was pretty darn impressive this weekend.
It was, and there's no one who has a better celebration than Mr. Forrest God. He's a trip when he wins big. I love it. But we talked about Cruz Pedregon. He's got a Chili Bowl car that he's been working on. It'll be cool to see if they get this back out for this coming year. But make sure you can actually go to our YouTube page. Just search Wing Nation. Steve on the post office actually caught up with Cruz while he was in town. We've had Cruz on the show several times. Just a great guy who loves sprint car racing, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we just talked about the whole list of them, Ron Capps, and we didn't even really talk about Gary Selzy. He was mentioned, but look at what his kids are doing in the sprint car world, just tearing it up. So I love the crossover between different forms of motorsports.
It's so true. And some other things you can catch up on, actually my show, Getting Off Track. I interviewed Lori McCarroll last week, so you can check that out on our YouTube page as well. Just so much going on, Aaron. I don't know if you've got your next guest solidified for As You Know. If so, drop a hint.
Not yet, but I have given a list to producer Hank. He has a list of people that I'd like him to find for me.
I love it. It's so cool to hear. And even Spencer said it today. Well, as you know, Aaron, so it's awesome to see that happen and just having that correlation and that whole love of sprint car racing. It's all about the love. But we love you guys so much. Thanks for Spencer joining us today. And Aaron, thanks for joining you. And all our fans out there, thanks for joining us here on Wing Nation.